Good morning, everyone. This is always my favorite time of year when we get to announce the Hall of Famers. It's great to see so many of you here today. I think we're in for a real treat and a heartfelt morning. Induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame is really the pinnacle of achievement in our industry. And we're happy that so many of you, friends and family, are here to celebrate our exceptional inductees this morning. I'd like to send a welcome to so many of our board of directors actually throughout the room today from the Country Music Association, including our vice chairman of our Awards and Recognition Committee, Shane McAnally, and the chairman of our board, Frank Bumstead. I'd also like to acknowledge all of the many members of the CMA Hall of Fame Board of Directors and appreciate the outstanding work you do to preserve our history and caretake the future of our museum. When the CMA created the Country Music Hall of Fame in 1961, it was to bestow the highest honor in our format upon the country music artists and industry professionals whose careers have had the greatest impact on this uniquely American musical art form. Today, we get to announce inductees in three categories: the modern era, veterans era, and the touring and recording musicians active prior to 1980. These three acts will be formally inducted into the coveted Hall of Fame during the traditional invitation-only medallion ceremony later this year, held across the building at the CMA Theater. We're proud to support the growth of this outstanding museum and the preservation of our treasured history. At this time, I'd like to introduce the director of the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum, Kyle Young.
Wow, look at all this stuff up here.
Sorry, I left my glasses.
No, it's good. Thanks, Sarah. Good morning and welcome to our temple. It's an exciting day for us, and I'm so happy to be here joining our friends and colleagues from the Country Music Association. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Frank and the board and Sarah and her staff for their continued support and friendship over the years. So look around. In a few months, these bronze plaques will be joined by new members of the Hall of Fame. And today we have the privilege of recognizing a very special group of legendary artists. These remarkable entertainers all represent quality and precision in their music. They exemplify harmony, whether in the blending of their magnificent voices or in the tightly knit ensemble playing of an accomplished musician. I know you're all eager to know their names. I want to thank you again. I love sharing this special event with you guys. And now, Sarah, it's all yours.
Thanks, Kyle. I would not be exaggerating to say for us at the CMA, this is our staff's favorite day. A lot of planning goes into it, but we really enjoy what today means. And I think you'll get to hear that from the inductees today. Here to celebrate us today is a really special MC for us. She's a former member of our CMA Board of Directors. She's a member of both the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Country Music Hall of Fame. Please welcome a passionate supporter of CMA and certainly the Hall of Fame, Miss Brenda Lee.
I always have to have my box. I don't really need these, I just think it's a cool thing to do. This is, for me, a really wonderful honor. I've had the pleasure before of inducting my fellow artists. This is my first time in a long time to announce this coveted prize, I guess, as you will, to go into this hallowed hall that we so revere. So I'll get right on with it. Our candidate for the musician category may not be well known to the casual music fan, but many of his licks are instantly recognizable, his guitar licks. In a career that spanned 5 decades and touched millions of listeners around the world, He played guitar on some of the world's most important and memorable songs, regardless of genre. He provided that beautiful string guitar work on Marty Robbins' El Paso. He got the heart racing on Roy Orbison's Oh Pretty Woman. He got the wheels rolling on Willie Nelson's On the Road Again. And he played on everything that I ever recorded. And I wouldn't do a session unless he was present. Sometimes that made Owen a little peeved. But I held to it, and he was on everything that I ever did. He's perhaps best known for his work as part of the A-Team, the Nashville A-Team. We all know who that is, a group of studio musicians who helped define country music during the Nashville Sound era. He worked with almost every major country star of the 50s and 60s, including future fellow Hall of Fame members Johnny Cash, Chris Christopherson, Ernest Tubb, Merle Haggard, Waylon Jennings, Patsy Cline, and Ray Price. His list of session credits spans all music and includes a who's who of legends, including Elvis Presley, Bob Dylan, Joan Baez, Bing Crosby, Burl Ives, Buddy Holly, Doc Watson, J.J. Hale, among many others. He was a native of Chapel Hill, Tennessee, and he showed a talent for music at a very young age. His mother taught him to play piano, and he learned fiddle as well as guitar. It was his horsehair bow abilities that landed him his first job, playing for radio band leader Big Jeff Bess in 1944. Over the next decade, he had become one of country music's most sought-after live performers and held positions in the bands of Western swing star Paul Howard, the Bales Brothers, and Little Jimmy Dickens, and led Red Foley's band on ABC's TV Ozark Jubilee. The sixth string became his preferred instrument in the early 1950s as the electric guitar began to proliferate. His ability to piece together simple but dramatic riffs led to thousands of recording sessions with top producers, including Chet Atkins, Owen Bradley, and Don Law. He also led his own band, the Slewfoot Five, and made his own instrumental singles and albums for Decca. He returned to the stage in the 1980s, joining Jerry Reed's band. And after helping to cut the soundtrack of Nelson's Honeysuckle Rose, he joined that band for a number of years before health forced him from the road. He passed away in 2001. Please join me in acknowledging the 215 inductee for touring and/or recording musician active prior to 1980, the wonderful Grady Martin. Several of Grady's children are here. Joshua, Jason, Justin, Grady Jr., who's like a clone of Grady, Julie, Angie, and I don't know if Alyssa's here, and also Sue, Grady's wife, is here. But Joshua, who's a picker, I'm so proud, he's going to come up and talk about his daddy. So, Joshua Martin.
Where do y'all come from, you know? I guess that's why I'm here. Grady Martin's my dad, and that's where I come from. And as you might imagine, that means I know a few extra things about picking the guitar. But more importantly, I'm a product of his example. I got a pretty good grip on how to make my way in the world, how to do your job, how to be a team player. I think Dad set the precedent for how you should do the job and how you should get it done right the first time. You show up, you work hard, you contribute whatever you can in that moment to the greater good. You put your trust in the Lord, and you do better for others than you do for yourself. You do more for others than you do for yourself. That's where it's at. That's what echoes into eternity. If you got a job to do, you do it with grace. You do it with your full attention. You give your whole heart. And that's what will make the difference. And Dad was a big part in a lot of people's lives. He was a really big part in a lot of great music. You know, he was not the kind of man that would try and seek out any extra attention or any recognition for that. But I know he loved his work. I know he honored his team. He loved what he did. I believe he'd be truly proud, truly honored for this occasion, as I am, and as my family is. And we're just so very proud of where we came from. There's a funny thing that happens when you follow in your dad's footsteps, and anybody that's tried to do that has probably run into this. People introduce you around, they say, "Oh, this is Josh Martin, he's Grady Martin's son." And I always kind of liked it, but my best friend, Seth, he noticed this happening to me a lot, and he said, "Does that ever bother you? You know, people just think of you as your dad's son." And I just said no. And to this day, it doesn't bother me at all. I'm just so happy to be who I am and to know where I came from. And I'm happy to be here today, and thank you all for helping us to honor one of the greatest guitar players to ever walk the earth.
Yes. Can we have the other children stand that are here? Could we do that? And Sue. Well, pretty soon you'll know what that feels like. It's pretty awesome. Okay. I got through that one. That's good. I started traveling with this next family trio when I was 10 years old. And I look out in the audience and I see Leroy Van Dyke. He was on a lot of those tours too. And they helped to define an era while also taking country music to wider, more cosmopolitan audiences. Their smooth three-part harmony, thinking of breakfast, harmony cut across genre lines to bring a more sophisticated sound to what we know as country music. Perhaps the most important vocal group of the Nashville sound era, their harmonies were highly regarded, immediately influencing groups like the Beatles and the Osborne Brothers. And the trio's take on what country music can inspire to be can still be felt decades later in the music of modern vocal groups like Lady Antebellum and Little Big Town. Born in the 1930s, the siblings got their start performing at churches and social functions as teenagers in southwestern Arkansas. A failed attempt at winning a talent contest on Little Rock radio station KLRA, the Barnyard Frolic, led to an invitation to join the cast for one member, and eventually his sister joined him on stage, and the two found quick success as a duo, landing a spot on the Louisiana Hayride in 1954. The following year, a third member of the family filled out the trio by joining the group. It was an exciting time for the siblings. They found themselves on the road with friends like Elvis Presley early in their career, and they helped establish Nashville as Music City, USA. They signed with RCA Records in 1955, teaming with the legendary producer Chet Atkins, and eventually recorded 250 sides with the label, including hits like I Take the Chance and I Heard the Bluebirds Sing. The trio reached new levels of popularity with the recording of 1959's, I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to make you guess a little while longer. It was number one, not only on the country charts, but on the pop charts, which back then, folks, was a real feat. And it was also in the top 10 in the R&B charts. The song and subsequent hits led the group to huge television appearances and opportunities, including The Ed Sullivan Show, American Bandstand, and The Perry Como Show. The trio disbanded in 1967 when the sisters chose to retire and raise their families. One member, however, continued with a solo career, and he hosted a number of television shows in the 80s, including You Can Be a Star. And he's remained a beloved figure in Nashville with several top 10 hits. Not going to name those either. I will, though, because they're important. Papa Top. How many remember that? Southern Living. Sometimes Sunshine. And It's That Time of Night. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pride to introduce you to the next member of the Country Music Hall of Fame members, Jim Ed, Maxine, and Bonnie Brown.
I'm not used to that. Brenda Lee,
Yes, sir.
I love you.
I love you too.
If I ever grow up, I want to be just like you.
If I ever grow up, I want to be.
I don't know about people before me that's come up here, but I'm much more comfortable behind my guitar than I am this podium. But I might as well just say it right quick. I'm as nervous as a mosquito in a nudist colony. I know what to do, but I don't know where to start. So, anyway. Might as well start someplace, anyway. Golly, I knew the Oak Ridge Boys were popular, but I didn't know we drew this many. Friends, it's been a long journey from when Jim Reeves introduced us to Chet Atkins and to this wonderful morning here at the Country Music Hall of Fame. No way could words express to you our feelings right now. From the beginning of the start with RCA Records to becoming members of the Grand Ole Opry in 1963, many, many people have played a huge role in helping us get here. Some of those folks I would like to mention, if I could at this time: Chet Atkins, Tom Perryman, first manager, booking agent, Horace Logan, head of the Louisiana Hayride, Jim Reeves, you all know Jim, Jane Dowden and Bill Graham, who started me in television, and I love them dearly, Alan Reed, who was responsible for my hosting You Can Be a Star, which should still be on country music television to this day, Bob Ferguson, Helen Cornelius, and Tandy Rice. And to our Grand Ole Opry family and those who sat on, well, who was, excuse me, who was at the helm of the Opry at the time, all those years, Mr. Ott Divide, who brought us to Nashville and put us on the Grand Ole Opry, Bud Wendell, Hal Durham, Bob Whitaker, Pete Fisher, Colin Reed, the CMA, your dedication and support to so many of us in country music is undeniable. Without people like Joe Walker Betta, Ed Benson, and Sarah Taylor, many artists would never have had the chance for a voice within the industry. So thank you for always keeping that door open for us. And you know, we're all in country music. That's the reason we're here. And there have been so many people who played a part in our career. Musicians, can't forget them, because for the last 61 years, they have worked and helped. They've been with me on my road dates, albums, singles. But it's you that helped create the magic that became the sound of Jim Ed Brown and the Browns. Thanks also to my current band. Speaking of making music, I released a new album. It's called In Style Again. My first release in over 30 years now, actually. It was created because Shannon Pollard decided to start a record label called Plowboy Records, and he allowed Don Cusick to produce an album on me. Thanks to all of you. People all over the world now are hearing my new music, thank goodness. But I can't say enough about Kurt Webster. Don't know where he is, but he's here. Kurt is perhaps the greatest public relations man in the business. I've never seen anyone work as hard as he has to help me with all of this, and thank you, Kurt, very much. To my family, love, support, dedication, through the good and the bad, and everywhere in between has always been there. This past year has not been an easy one. Grown men aren't supposed to cry, are they? Cancer. Cancer is no fun, but I've made it through it. I'm in remission. And I can't thank my wife and my family enough. My son, Buster, and his lovely wife, Lee, my daughter, Kim Ed, and her husband, Mike, and all the grandkids. Golly, the Lord has blessed me. But let me conclude and say this. If it weren't for two young ladies sitting here beside me, then we wouldn't be standing here today. Bonnie and Maxine, I love you both. Before I turn this over to them, because I'm afraid of Maxine, what she's going to say, I must say one thing. I sure feel in style again. Bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this honor, CMA. There's no way I can ever tell you how much it means to us. I'm still in shock. I want to thank my brother for staying in the business and keeping the Browns songs alive and mentioning the Browns name. He's been wonderful. I'm choking up too. In 1967, when I decided I need to stay home with my kids, 2 little girls, and my husband, it was a hard decision to make. But I know I did the right thing. Didn't I, Maxine? Yes. She did too. I'm not going to take up much time because she's the talker in the family. But this is really an honor. I can't wait to see our picture hanging on the wall back here, the bronze. Thank you so much.
I don't know where I'm going. I can't go much, very many places at all. I'm just glad to be here. I'm glad to be anywhere.
You want to stand there or come here?
No, I'm going to go here.
Yeah, get in the spotlight, girl.
I'm not in the spotlight very much.
Well, you are today.
Only at the doctor's office. But ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the biggest thrills I've ever had in my life. And you won't believe the hardships that Jim, Ed, and Bonnie and I have been through for 64 years. But we never stopped dreaming the dream. And we stayed and endured all those hardships because of our love of country music and our love of the artist. We knew they were going through the same thing we were. But you know, a hit record and awards don't mean very much. They last about a year. But this award from the CMA Country Music Association will last a lifetime. And we're so proud of this. I want to thank CMA and all of our peers for voting the Browns in the Hall of Fame. You will never know how much this means to us. And I want to thank my family for their support all those years and for the very many fans that we have worldwide, and we still do. After 68 years, they are still with us and support us, and they're proud of us. And we're proud to still be here. Believe me, we are. I am, and Jim, Ed, and Bonnie. We're no spring chickens, and we're so proud we're getting this award while we're still got 6 feet above ground. We love you. Thank you so much. And thank you, CMA. This means so much to us. What's that? I thought we'd never get it. I'm not having a very good time anymore, but I'm still here. I'm surprised you didn't tell them how you got it. I was telling them how I got this. She's not through.
Yes,
She's never through.
she's through.
Jim Ed says you're through.
I'll tell them at the lunch.
Let's have a wonderful hand, ladies and gentlemen, for the great Browns. Few country music groups have had the enduring popularity, cultural significance, or crossover success of our inductees for modern era artists. A vocal harmony quartet that started out in traditional country and gospel during World War II and evolved with the times to help popularize and modernize country music far beyond its traditional genre and regional lines. The group went through numerous lineup changes in its early decades before the current members joined in the 60s and early 70s, turning it into a dynamic country music force with a focus on high-energy vocal harmonies that brought crowds and still bring crowds to their feet. With the release of the 1977 album, Y'all Come Back Saloon, their popularity soared. They landed their first #1, I'll Be True to You, in 1978, and perhaps just as significantly, Paul Simon asked them to sing backup on what would become his first hit, or one of his first hits, Slip Sliding Away. How many of you knew that? A few, okay. And of course, that opened the door to the pop music world. Paul wasn't the only one who sought them out. They accompanied George Jones on his smash, Same Old Me. They also have harmonized behind Johnny Cash, Ray Charles, Billy Ray Cyrus, Bill Monroe, Leon Russell, and one of my biggest country records, Broken Trust. National audiences learned the joy of their harmonies with the group's biggest hit in 1981, one of the biggest hits ever, Elvira. And it became a crossover pop smash. They followed a year later with another crossover hit, Bobby Sue. Their classics include Trying to Love Two Women, and Only They Can Do It, Beautiful You, Fancy Free, I Guess It Never Hurts to Hurt Sometime, Make My Life With You, Touch a Hand, Make a Friend, and It Takes a Little Rain to Make Love Grow. Their American Made became a national ad jingle. Their Thank God for Kids is considered a country standard. And their recording of Leaving Louisiana in the Broad Daylight helped launch the career of Rodney Crowell. All in all, the current lineup has scored 17 #1 hits. They've released more than 40 albums, and they've had sales in excess of 41 million copies. The group has also helped open the doors for country music on network television with a number of televised current specials, including HBO and PBS. They also hosted their own series, the Oak Ridge Boys Live from Las Vegas, for TNN in the late 90s. They've had numerous members since founder Wally Fowler started the group in 1943 in Knoxville as the Georgia Clodhoppers. They were hired to perform for the restricted staff and their families at the nearby Oak Ridge Nuclear Research Facility. They appeared there so often, they eventually changed their name to the Oak Ridge Quartet in 1945, the year they began performing on the Grand Ole Opry. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 2015 inductees for Modern Era Artists, the Oak Ridge Boys, Dwayne Allen, Joe Bonzo, William Lee Golden, and Richard Sturban.
I'll go first. Thank you to that CMA secret committee somewhere, wherever they may be, for deeming us worthy of the most incredible honor that was ever been bestowed upon the Oak Ridge Boys. I didn't think much about the Hall of Fame for a lot of years there, and then all of a sudden, for the last several years, I started listening to this show every year. And I heard the name Garth Brooks. I said, hey man, Garth Brooks, how can you argue with that? He sold 1 trillion albums and he sold out the whole world in 14 minutes. Next year, Kenny Rogers, our mentor, our friend, our brother. Who could deny Kenny Rogers the Hall of Fame? Laying in bed, took the headphones out of my ear and went back to sleep. Last year, Ronnie Millsap. We love Ronnie Millsap. My gosh, what a string of records and hits, and what a life of talent, Ronnie Millsap. Turned back over and went to sleep. And every time I think to myself, if it was us, we'd be down there. And we're not down there. Maybe next year. Well, this year we're down here. Somebody else can turn over and go back to sleep. Speaking of sleep, I don't know if any of the Oak Ridge boys slept very well last night. I know I sure didn't. My stomach's been in knots. We've done almost everything there is to do. How can one be nervous and scared? But I am today. I keep seeing these visions in front of my head, all kinds of visions. I see young Oak Ridge boys in a truck stop in Texas pouring quarters into jukeboxes listening to Y'all Come Back Saloon. And a couple of truckers over there saying, hey, y'all look like girls. You play that song one more time, we're going to kill you. I see us gathered in prayer with our manager, Jim Halsey. We still do that today. Thanking God for his blessings. I see Johnny Cash and Jimmy Dean and Kenny Rogers and so many. I see us sitting around the table, all of a sudden having Elvira as a big hit and going, holy cow, look at this. Whoa. This took us from being a big name in country music at the time to a household name in America. Well, let's go out there and put on big arena shows like we learned from Kenny. I remember sitting around the first time we decided we're going to buy lasers and smoke. And get in touch with Genesis, man. We want to get some of them Very lights like those guys use, and let's make this thing really big. That was long before the groups of today did arenas. We did the first one. We did the first HBO special. I can see us taping it. First time HBO did a music special was the Oak Ridge Boys, Roseanne Cash, Charlie Daniels. Okay, I could go on and on and on. We've had an incredible career. God has blessed us. And I see people out there that are friends. A lot of people have been behind us in this thing for a long time. Thank you for your love and support. This is Cooperstown, man. This is Canton. This is Cleveland. This is Nashville. We are honored, and I hope to be deserving of this honor in the days to come. Thank you.
I was told last night, if you ever want to say anything to thank anybody, this is the time to do it. Joe speaks for us so eloquently every night. He's the best speaker out of the whole bunch. And I think he covered just about everything that we all want to say. But I would like to point out a few areas and people in those areas that are so important to us. I'll start with the most important of all, Jim Halsey. Jim Halsey is more than a manager. We call him our godfather. He's my very, very best friend. He's our spiritual advisor. He encouraged us when we didn't know where we could get the next biscuit. That was before we met Cracker Barrel. He also put us on shows where we could survive. Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash paid us more than we were worth. Then he tipped us more than we normally got. He put us with Roy Clark. Roy Clark took us to Las Vegas, showed us how to play the showrooms in Las Vegas, and it went so good he took us to the Soviet Union, and we took the music of our country behind the Iron Curtain. We saw what that world's like. we all kissed the ground at the airport when we landed in Washington, D.C. Kenny Rogers showed us how to work the arenas. Jimmy Dean put us on dates that he really didn't need us on, but he needed somebody to sing Big Bad John behind him. I'd like to also thank the Statler brothers. They showed country music that there's room for a 4-part harmony group. They opened the door that we walked through. Amen. I know when we were trying to make that move from gospel to country, there was a gray area there where we were about to starve to death, but everybody thought we were rolling in money from gospel music, and we had been previously, but we were in a gray area where really nobody wanted to claim us at that time. So we went around to all the record labels in town. The first thing they would tell us is we already have a 4-part harmony group in country music. Well, don't you have room for another? Nobody said yes except Jim Fogelsong. May he rest in peace. He was our recording savior. He introduced us to Ron Chancey. Ron Chancey taught us the meaning of finding a hit song. He proved it when he walked through the door with a song written by Sharon Vaughn, Y'all Come Back Saloon. He proved it again with all the songs to follow. And about 14 hits later, he walked in with Elvira. And he showed us what 3 minutes of magic could do for one's career. It bought us all a new home. And it freed us up so that we could do what we love to do, and that's sing. I'd like to also thank Bill Gaither, who came to us after our run of hits, gave us a place where we could continue recording. We still cut some songs with him, and if we get another big offer, he'll step aside and say, go for it, boys. But he's our friend. He's been very good to us. I'd like to thank the people at William Morris Endeavor. Paul Moore's here today. He's like a brother to us. And he trained up a new little brother for us, Barry Jeffrey, now our responsible agent. I know that Greg Oswald is here. I'd like to thank the people that take it as a priority to make sure the Oak Ridge boys get 150 days a year. We've got 22 more to go. Go back and put those in the book. You got something to tell people, okay? 128 just won't get it. It's good, but we want 150. I'd like to also thank the people who get the word out. Our longtime publicist, who's been with us about 3 decades, is in Los Angeles, Sandy Brokaw. A few years ago, we decided we needed more local attention, and we decided we needed to go work New York and do the talk show circuit up there more. And we needed some very special type of work here in Nashville. And we got together with Kurt Webster and his agency. And Kurt has been behind so many of the wonderful things that you've seen happening with the Oak Ridge boys lately. I'd like to thank Kurt. Jeremy's here, Kay's here, probably more. But I'd like to especially thank them because they're just great. I see that Steve Buchanan is sitting here on the front row. About 3 or 4 years ago, the Oak Ridge boys were invited to come out and sing at the Opry. The Opry family has always treated us like members, even though that wasn't true until a couple of years ago. But about 3 or 4 years ago, we were back talking, and Steve turned to me and he said, you know, you guys have done just about everything. Is there anything you haven't done that you'd like to see happen in your career? I said, quickly, yes, we'd like to be a member of the Grand Ole Opry. And I said we would consider it a huge honor if we could ever be inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. This completes my wish list. I'd like to thank our staff. We have 3 people that grind out Oak Ridge Boys business 24/7. 3 of them, we've got 4 in our office, but 3 of them have been with us over 125 years if you count up their years. Over 40 years each. That's devotion. I'd like to thank our band, our crew, and the people who help us on the road. We have people that have been with us 35 years. Our mixing monitor, our house mixer has been with us 35 years. Our keyboard player has been with us 35 years, and his father hired me. So we don't move around a lot. We find something that we like, we try to stick with it. And the thing that makes being away from home so much, so sweet, when we come home, are our families. I'd like to thank them. They've always believed in us. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. I hope I haven't left out anybody, because we can't do it alone. You have to have a lot of people. And everybody in their own area is the most important person in the Oak Ridge Boys' career in that area. Thank you, Chuck. Jimmy, I heard you this morning. Thank you. All of you riders that have pushed for us for so many years, the day is here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brenda. I'd like to thank all the people, the secret voters that voted for the Oak Ridge Boys this year. I'd also like to thank my partners, my singing partners, Joe and Dwayne and Richard. I know it was 50 years ago that I left the farm in South Alabama on the Florida line and joined the Oak Ridge Boys. It was in 1965. And along the way, there's a lot of people to thank here. I know Dwayne hit on Jim Halsey. Without Jim, I know all the people in our situation would not have gotten together. Jim brought Jim Fogelsong and Ron Chancey to the Oak Ridge Boys that brought all the great records or great songs that we were fortunate enough to record. Growing up on a farm as a kid, I can't forget where I'm coming from, because as a little kid, I remember it was one thing that brought our whole family together on the weekend is on Saturday night when our family, my grandparents, my mother and dad, and us little kids, it was a Grand Ole Opry that really was our entertainment on the weekend out in the farm and kind of where we come from. My granddaddy he was a fiddle player, and so I was exposed to music early. My dad loved to farm like I loved to sing, and but Granddaddy Golden played fiddle, and my mother and my sister taught me how to play guitar and sing when I was real little, when I was 7, 8, 9 years old, and my granddaddy had a radio show that when we were little kids, my sister and I would get to sing on the radio show, and we would sing songs that we had heard on the Grand Ole Opry songs that Roy Acuff sang about the great speckled bird, and Mansion Over the Hilltop, Kitty Wells, and the Browns, and the Louvin Brothers, and I was exposed to that type music growing up, and joining the Oak Ridge Boys and singing harmonies. It was a long journey, but when we set sail with our ship in country music, we couldn't have done it without Jim Halsey, but we couldn't have done it without all of the Oak Ridge Boys agreeing that we needed to expand our music and to sing songs that related to our life 7 days a week rather than maybe 1 day a week. But sometimes it may look like it was a long journey, but reflecting back on it in the past few days, it really don't seem long at all. And life passes so swiftly that we don't know where it all goes sometimes. And I know Joe was referring to the past 2 or 3 years here, and sometimes I guess I couldn't help but wonder, maybe I did or said something that might have offended some of these secret voters along the way. So I've been guilty of probably having more fun than my share on occasion too, and so I wasn't sure if maybe something I'd done or said in the name of having fun singing country music might have offended somebody, but if I did, I apologize for that today. But yeah, it's a great honor to be here, and to me, this is, from where I'm coming from, it's kind of the pinnacle of achievements of where you can go. And it's a great honor, but I hope that we still get to sing after today and into the future. I'm not turning in my singing britches until we see how that goes. But anyhow, thank you all for this great opportunity. Thank you from my perspective and for all the Oak Ridge Boys. It's been a great ride, and hopefully it's not near over.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. Brenda, I agree with Jim Ed Brown. I love you. And you worked with us quite a bit over the years, so you're a part of our career too. So we got to mention you as well, with all the others that have been mentioned. I've been an Oak Ridge boy for 43 years, which is hard to believe. But for 2 years, prior to joining the Oak Ridge Boys, I sang in a group called J.D. Sumner and the Stamps Quartet. And for about 1.5 years of that time, I sang with Elvis. And I'm going to have to thank Elvis. Elvis was a big influence on me, and I probably wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Elvis. So Elvis is a name that I want to mention and thank him, certainly. Ever since we started singing country music, ever since we started recording country music, all of us had a dream. And the dream has now come true today. I want to thank the good Lord above for giving us all talent so we could sing. We all have voices, we all have talent, we can harmonize together, and we got to thank the good Lord for that. I want to thank my beautiful wife for standing by me. And everyone has mentioned Jim Halsey, and I'm going to have to mention Jim Halsey too. We would not be here without Jim Halsey, without his leadership, his guidance, his direction. I want to thank Kurt Webster, who's here, Paul Moore. Without him, we wouldn't be here today. You know, the list goes on and on. You know, all you guys who voted for us, thank you big time.
everybody in the CMA, everybody in here in the Hall of Fame, thank you for your support. Thank you for making a dream come true. Thank you very much.
The Oak Ridge Boys, ladies and gentlemen. If I could just have the mic for, just sit down just a minute, because I promised I'd do this. This will give you some idea, unless you already know the love and the scope of what we know as country music. I was trying to find Grady Martin Jr. Was it yesterday? Because I had to tell him today about his daddy. We'd had a meeting, Sarah and all of us. I said, okay, leave it to me, I'll find him. Okay. Somebody said he hangs out sometimes at Shoney's in Lewisburg. I said, okay. So I called Shoney's. And I spoke to Tracy. And Tracy said, and I told her who I was. I said, he's not wanted. I said, but I have to get him. She said, well, okay. She said, now he comes in here, but he also goes to Mildred's. Let me call Misty. So she called Misty. Then they couldn't do it, so I called the police department in Lewisburg, and I explained. I spoke with June, and I explained. And then I said, do you have an address? I said, well, he lives on his father's farm. They said, well, that's in the county. So I called Marshall County. And I spoke with Alicia and a detective and explained my plight and the whole world of country music. And God love them, 8 o'clock that night, they called and said, we have found Grady. So there you are. You're well known in that part of the world, buddy.
I think it's safe to say that if Brenda hadn't had a big hit when she was a young woman, she might have become a private investigator later. And next year, if we're trying to track somebody down, she's going to be my first call. What a special, special morning. I think, the Hall of Fame and the country music, day in and day out, we get up in the morning because we can honor the great music that comes out of our format. What's particularly exciting to me in looking at Jim Ed and the Browns and the Oaks is that they're still going to be ambassadors out there playing on all of our behalf going forward. And here in this hall, when young generations come, they'll see all the hits that Grady played on. And it'll be remembered long after all of us in this room are gone. So thank you so much for a huge room of people today. This may be a record count, so thank you all for coming. We're going to do pictures right after this and then ask all of our inductees to stay for the press. A lot of friends and family are here to celebrate this morning, so if you guys could just hold off until we get everybody through the press line. Thank you very much. I look forward to the induction in the fall. Thank you.